and welcome to this free lead guitar lesson. Today I'm going to be coaching you on how to use a specific melody note in your lead guitar playing that is just dripping with emotion. It builds tension and release in an extremely unique way. And it's safe to say that if you don't take advantage of this note when soloing in a major key, your leads will miss out in a big way. The note I'm talking about is the perfect fourth. Now, this isn't meant to be an exhaustive music theory lesson, so just suffice to say that the perfect fourth represents the fourth note in the major scale. For example, if we're in the key of G, our perfect fourth would be a C note. Now, an interesting thing is that if we play a major pentatonic scale, which is a really common choice for soloing, we actually do not have this note included within the scale. For the music theory geeks out there, hello, I'm one of you. The major pentatonic scale includes the root, second, third, fifth, and sixth, but not a perfect fourth. So theoretically, you can play guitar solos in a major key and actually sound even pretty good without the perfect fourth. But when you hear what I have to play for you today and what I have tabbed out for you today, you're really gonna want that dripping emotional feel that the perfect fourth is gonna give you. So today I've got 5 guitar licks for you that really milk the perfect fourth. We'll be using a few different guitar techniques to achieve this. So really my goal for you here today is not only just for you to have the perfect fourth at the forefront of your mind when you're improvising, but also to hear and use the perfect fourth amidst a range of different feels and techniques. This is sure to be a blast, so let's dive in. This first example today is going to be relatively simple. I'm essentially going to be playing some G major pentatonic phrases, and I'm just going to get to the perfect fourth by doing a little half-step bend within the scale. This little string bend is just going to add a cool tension-building melody note to a relatively simple phrase. Let's dive in. This next example is going to incorporate the perfect fourth in a quick descending run that uses pull-offs, largely based on the G major pentatonic scale, but just adding that perfect fourth in. This is going to have a really cool melody to it. You may find if you do lots of fast pentatonic licks that sometimes you get trapped in a little bit of a almost kind of oriental sort of sound, and adding in the perfect fourth just to get in a little bit of nuance to your melody is a great way to kind of circumvent that. So this lick has a pretty cool sound to it. It's a challenging one, really moves around the fretboard. Let's check it out. So in this example, we have notes descending in groups of 6. The first group of 6 is, and these are all just quick pull-offs. I'm picking, in this case, I'm picking the 8th fret, pulling off to 7, jumping down, and this perfect fourth is the very first note that I start with here, the C note at the 8th fret of the first string. I have 10 and 8 on the B string, and then 9 and 7 on the G string. Those are just notes that are strictly G major pentatonic. Then next I'm starting from this G note on the 8th fret of the 2nd string. And those notes that I fly to next, those are all just G major pentatonic notes. It's still a group of 6 notes. They're just kind of distributed across the strings a bit differently. So I have the 1 note, the 8th fret of the 2nd string, 2 notes on the G string, 2 notes on the D string, and then one note on the A string. Then I repeat the very first idea that I played, but just 1 octave lower. So that's, there's a bit of a position shift. I pick 10 on the D string, pull off to 9, hop over to the 12th fret of the A string, and get those bottom 2 notes. And then there's a little phrase to finish. I slide up from 12, and there's a little, just to give an example of some melodic phrasing that could follow an idea like this. This next example is going to be a little bit of a wilder example. Specifically, I wanted to create something that would be challenging and use the perfect fourth in a lot of different ways. So what we have here is an arpeggio-based idea that uses the perfect fourth as a tapped note, a tapped melody note on top of the arpeggio. And it also uses the perfect fourth as more of a visceral sort of double stop idea at the bottom of the arpeggio. So lots of stuff going on here, but just start slow and you'll have this one down in no time. And I really hope you enjoy it. Let's check it out. So this arpeggio run starts actually with a tapped note on the 20th fret of the high E string. And I'm going to tap 20, pull off to 19, pull off to 15. So I've got my fingers all set up there. And then slide down to 14. Then I've got the 15th fret of the second string, the 14th fret of the third string, and I'm sliding down the G string. I actually just use the index finger to slide down to 12 and then to 11 of the G string. So far we have... I complete this G major 7 arpeggio by picking the 12th fret of the 4th string, the 10th fret of the A string, the 10th fret of the A string, and then sliding down to the 9th fret of the A string. And then the double stop, and this is the second instance of the perfect fourth, is this... Here I've got my middle finger on the 9th fret of the D string and my index finger on the 7th fret of the G string, and I strum those two strings and hammer on to the perfect fourth, that C note. I finish the melody by kind of going down and doing this bar double stop. Then I finish on the root note. And I use a little sort of string skipping pentatonic descending phrasing idea. And that's kind of me crisscrossing between the A and G strings. In this next example, I'm going to be playing over a bit more of a blues chord progression, specifically over the chords G7 and C7. So just kind of like your 1 and 4 chords in a 12-bar blues. In the 12-bar blues, a lot of folks tend to stick the minor pentatonic scale, and that's awesome. In this example, I'm going to be kind of using the perfect fourth in conjunction with the major third to get a little bit more of a brighter sound. Almost kind of reminiscent a little bit of kind of like Angus Young, kind of how he does in some of his solos. Just to show a little bit of contrast, I'm going to be using the perfect fourth throughout the earlier portions of this lick to get that nice bright sort of a little bit of tension, but really just nice sort of melodic sound. And then towards the end of the lick, I'm going to do some more like dirtier sort of blues sounds just to kind of get a bit of contrast and show how those sounds can coexist. Hope you enjoy this one. Let's try it out. The initial part of this lick has me bending up to the root note and having some descending pentatonic ideas. The perfect fourth comes into play with this really nice melody to that. I then descend down this sort of bluesy idea. I use my ring finger to roll between these notes. And I bend up to the perfect fourth here. So it's like a bend up to the perfect fourth, which would be this C note. But you also hear the major third interval, which would be a B note. I then have some sliding sort of phrasing ideas descending down the G string. And then to finish off the idea, I have some sort of more visceral, sort of rough sounding blues ideas. Just to kind of cap things off and to get a bit of contrast with some of the brighter sounds I was getting earlier. Having that perfect fourth note in there really kind of brings the lick home, and it really adds some interesting flavor to it. This next example, really less of a lick and more of sort of a full improvisation. I'm going to be playing in the key of E flat major, mostly using the pentatonic scale, but I'm going to play a few phrases just so you can hear a few phrases kind of connect as opposed to like one isolated lick. I'm going to be using the perfect fourth pretty liberally here just to add some extra dimension and melody. What I play here is going to sound much more interesting, adding the perfect fourth, than if I was to play, say, just strictly an E flat major pentatonic. I'm going to thoroughly break down my note choices here in the breakdown, so be sure to stay tuned for that, just so you can really access sort of the tones that I'm getting in this little series of phrases here. Let's check it out. We start off with this sort of picking segment, a little bit like the fast sort of grace note hammer-ons and the barred double stops. Then a slide down to the 8th fret of the A string. I hit the 8th fret of the low E string and I do a quick jump to get that nice little ending sort of bend there to the root notes. There's a little quick bend after the, just kind of a quick little bend that I kind of choke off at the end there. We have kind of another blues rock infused type phrase where I'm doing and I'm grabbing the top notes with my pinky, and it's with this lick here. And the perfect fourth is when I do this little bend. The next phrase I find quite cool. I start off by playing some blues, major blues type sounding ideas, where I'm going 10 and 8 on the D string, and a little chromaticism on the A string, using really the blues scale. But this is kind of neat because I do that phrase, and the perfect fourth is right there on the 11th fret of the A string. So I can slide up to that note. I kind of add to this idea by playing some really nice melodic notes and doing a little hammer-on, hitting the 8th fret of the 4th string, 7th fret of the 3rd string, and sliding from the 8th fret of the 4th string down to the 6th fret of the 4th string. I hit the 7th fret of the 3rd string, 6th fret of the 4th string, and then pause for a while on the 8th fret of the 3rd string. Just so we're keeping good notes, that perfect fourth is there. And again, and you notice each time I shift to it, whether it's from below the perfect fourth, like playing a few notes and sliding up to the perfect fourth, or whether I'm going down to the perfect fourth, like here, every time it's got that really strong pull and it's adding strong melody and tension to what I'm playing. To finish off the idea, I do more of just a simple descending blues phrase. Okay, so that'll do it for today's lesson. I really hope that you enjoyed these guitar licks and got something out of them, and I hope you practice these and use these to improve your technique, feel, and also to really get thinking of your melodic choices when soloing in a bit of a new way. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to drop me a like or comment or subscription to Electric Guitar Academy. Every little bit helps. So I really appreciate you watching this video, and stay tuned because I'll have more of this stuff coming your way real soon. Cheers.